along with my fellow committee chair, Councilmember Withers. I will go through the roll call for the Budget Committee. Chair is here. Councilmember Druffel. Glover is not. Hurt is here. Mendez not yet. Pulley is here. Roten not yet. Sledge, Sawara. Is Councilmember Sawara still here? Okay. Syracuse, not here yet. Toombs is, there you are. Van Reese, Vercher. Do not see Vercher. And Councilmember Withers, you are not on the Budget Committee, is that correct? I could have sworn you were. Okay. Do you have your list to go through, or shall I? Okay. I have to turn your, yes.
Okay, so let's take a quick run through planning and zoning. I'm present. Councilmember Bradford's present. Councilmember Gamble's present. Still don't see Councilmembers Hager or Hall. Councilmember Murphy's present. I think Councilmember O'Connell had to go to another meeting. Councilmember Parker May, Rutherford is here. Councilmember Vice Chair Rutherford. Councilmember Sepulveda is here. Councilmember Van Reese and Councilmember Welsh. So appreciate everyone for sticking around.
Great. So we have a quorum for planning, and hopefully we will have a quorum shortly for budget and finance. If not, we'll let planning do all the voting. Our goal here today is simply to have an explanation of the prioritization results from the information that we provided, and then a quick discussion about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Councilmember Sledge, you have saved us. Great. I'm going to turn it over to, nope, you got to stay till we vote. Mr. Wilkinson, you are recognized. You got the mic.
Okay. So on the screen, you can see a copy of the prioritization report that planning prepared and was sent out to you on Friday. I'll just go over the top 5 projects. The rest of it you can review on the PDF. The top project was the pedestrian bridge going from Stones River to Peeler Park. The second most, and it had 139 points. The second most prioritized project was a new fire hall in District 31 with 127 points. The third most prioritized project was the Browns Creek Greenway from I-440 to Cumberland River with 120 points. Madison Station Boulevard Park had 115. And then rounding out the top 5, improvements at Timothy Park in District 1 had 110 points. And so there was, within the top 10 really is where you saw projects at or above 100 points, and below it started to drop off a bit. But you can take a look at the document and see where your projects fell that you prioritized, and the mayor's office can use this document as they prepare their upcoming, in the future at some point down the road, next spending plan, whenever that may be. And so with that, I will give it back to
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. I appreciate that. 2 things I want to point out, and then I will begin to recognize my fellow chair and other council members with questions. One is our prioritization is to be used in a number of ways. 1 is by the mayor's office as they put together capital spending plan. 2 is by departments. If they have opportunistic projects that come up because something else is going on in the area, or if they have money to spend and there's no other difference to them, this at least gives them some guidelines on what's important to people. So this does not mean that these will always necessarily be done in this order. I think that's important for us to remember. Secondly, a question was raised that I think is an excellent one, so I would like to begin the discussion of this and any other questions you have. There are projects that in the past we have identified as high priority, and the process of design has begun for them. And as is often the case on the capital spending plan, there's money for design, and then there's money for land acquisition, and there's money for construction, and those are different buckets of money. So whether intentionally or not, many of the projects that we have identified in the past as things we are really excited about, like the Juvenile Justice Center, for example, we did not vote for this go-round, because if you're like me, I just assumed we have sent the message, we want that to be built. It is under design, and off it goes. And so the question that I would put before this group, and I would welcome a discussion on, is do we as a group want to make some kind of policy statement about projects that have been identified previously in previous years as priorities and therefore put in the queue, that our intention is that they continue in that queue. So I'm going to recognize Councilmember Gamble, and then hope that at some point, if your question is different, that we'll come back around to this other question, because I think that's an important statement that we need to figure out. So Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, and I appreciate that suggestion to remove items that are already in the queue. I noticed in the CIB request that I received for District 3, there were several items on the list that had already been funded or that it was suggested needed to come off the list, and so I think a cleanup of the list is definitely in order. My question is about the AL. What does AL mean?
At large.
Thank you. So at large, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
so
3,
that's
4,
the
5.
member that made the vote on that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As we discussed, if it affected multiple districts. Other questions or thoughts? Councilmember Druffel.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just as a general question, if it's a priority on, like a sidewalk is a priority on a sidewalk, or is that separate then from your own district? Because I have a couple sidewalks that show that it's a priority, but then I assume they were the priorities. Then mine were addition. Is that correct way of thinking?
So if you weren't able to attend the meeting where we had different department chairs talk with us about their prioritization projects, it was recorded and you can go back and look at that, and I invite everyone to do that. Because what they talked about is that we have all these master plans that set priorities, and there are also ranking systems that are very data-based for M&PS, for example, just based on the condition of the school, or the Public Works has their paving list, which is based on number of potholes per inch or whatever. Sidewalks are in large part connected to the walk and bike study that we've done. So those priorities are there, and we do not necessarily trump those priorities, but through our process, we have added additional information that we expect departments and the mayor's office to refer to. If they discover they've got a decision to make, we think it is important for them to know what we care about. So that is to say, I don't think any list trumps any other, but that they are all important, and ours is as important as the other ones.
Okay, thanks. I saw it on one list and didn't see it on another list, so I on this a couple sidewalks, so I was just curious. Thanks.
And I think that's similar to we know it's already funded and therefore we didn't vote for it. So
I didn't. Okay, thank you. I'll send a specific note on the ones I have questions.
Okay, no,
Thank you.
I think that's appropriate and welcome to do. I'm going to ask my fellow chair to comment on this one too.
Well, I definitely think that if we have projects that are in design phase, it should be a given that we don't want to waste things that have previously been funded, although not totally funded. So I think that advice is good, that would be the expectation, unless there is something that the council specifically wished to pull off of that list, that we would assume that things that had been previously started would continue. That's my
Fair enough. Anybody get thoughts on
recommendation.
logistics for that? I see 3 hands, Councilmember Druffel, Cash, and then Van Rees. In that order.
I would just add to that, I think we should get a cost estimate before, I mean, if you get...
Everything in the CIB has a cost.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of if there's planning and they ask for plans and those plans come back with significant differences, I would then say that we should create some threshold that says they should come back to us. Otherwise, let's say they're saying it's 10 million, all of a sudden it comes at 15 million. I think that should be under consideration.
So for a cost deviation from what was in the CIB,
That's
that
what I
should
would
come back for
suggest
review.
is, and
Okay.
I don't know where that is, maybe it's 10% or whatever amount that seems appropriate, but I think any serious cost changes should be reconsidered or at least made aware of.
That's a valid point, thank you. So if there's a cost estimate deviation of some amount, which we need to be pondering for the moment, that would trigger coming back for review. Councilmember?
One thing I think maybe just for clarification is that capital spending plans do come before the council as a resolution, and so we would still see that, and they would still have a line item typically. And so we would have a discussion, but, just for instance, with school construction, a lot of times the cost ends up coming up much higher than what we had planned, and we've seen that even with Hillsborough, for instance. But I don't think that anyone would say that, we're not going to finish the project, although there may be additional funds that are needed in a further capital spending plan to finish the project.
Good point. And that may be an issue of what that deviation threshold is. I appreciate you raising that question. Let's see. Said Councilmember Cash and then Van Rees. You're good. Councilmember Van Rees. You are here somewhere.
Lost my train of thought now. I just wanted to make a point that some projects can be underway with funding outside of Metro. So, for example, this number 4 item on the Madison Station Boulevard project, the park is at schematic design through nonprofit foundation grants, and so it hasn't received funding for final plans, but there has been funding implemented. So it's that energy that we don't want to lose in regard to that. And I don't know how that can be quantified on a list in regard to making sure that if we're going to say, well, if the following things have been funded, that we're also asking about outside funding in regard to that.
Or match funding. Yeah.
Or match funding.
Match funding, grants, whatever's underway that may or may not be time restrictive in particular.
Right. Would it be appropriate then for us to have the chair and I draft a letter to the administration simply clarifying that, I guess to the administration and key department heads, just clarifying our thoughts on projects that are in the queue, so to speak, because I think there's nothing so far in the process that we laid out that deals with that, and we don't want to create confusion by not at least providing some context for that. Other thoughts on that? Questions? Seeing none, Mr. Wilkinson, do we need to vote on anything, or is this just information? Mr. Claxton?
I would say that given that the changes every year, I don't think we voted on it last year.
Okay.
I guess this is more informational. This is what everybody turned in. They can't change it now.
Gotcha. So just an opportunity for discussion and clarification. So if there are no further questions, then I'll declare this meeting closed and we'll go into budget and finance meeting next. So this joint meeting is adjourned.